Hey, this is Ron with the Radiologic Technologist.com blog and YouTube channel. I'm going to do a quick video because it's Friday and I can hear my Pac-Man arcade game calling my name. I want to share a couple of tools that'll help you look at the growth, predicted growth and saturation of your area. If you're interested and you're just checking out radiography, and you want to know what the job situation's looking like, there's a place you can go see that. If you want to know how saturated it is where you live, there's a place you can see that. See, we go through these kind of ebbs and flows in the radiography field where we'll be short-staffed. Of course, some hospitals are always short-staffed because of the administration, but schools will start to say, hey, there's a need for X-ray techs, and their pay is increasing annually, and a lot of people are starting to, we're hearing a buzz. People are interested, so let's start more X-ray programs. And it was probably, I don't know, 2010-ish. In the Phoenix market, I was living in the Phoenix area, Phoenix, Arizona, and all of a sudden schools were popping up all over the place. And I think there was like 10 or something back then, instead of the usual 4 or 5. Of course, when you're in a big populated area like Phoenix or New York or Chicago or LA or whatever, it's okay to have a few more because you got a higher population. But whenever you start to tip that scale and put out more text than you have jobs, you have a problem. And I was reading through our group on Facebook this morning, the radiologic.technologist.com. I'm sorry, the Radiologic Technologist group is what it's called on Facebook, and you're welcome to go join. So we were talking about, if someone posted, tell me about the field, which we get about every other day, and somebody posted that they work in Kentucky. They've been there a long time, and they're starting to see technologists graduate and have a hard time finding jobs. And that always concerns me because there's several factors that could be causing that. And one of them is too many schools. Some of the other factors are that maybe these graduates didn't do a very good job in their clinical rotations, which is probably not the case. But you got to realize that when you do a 1.5 year rotation in a hospital as a student, even though you're not an employee and you're not getting paid to be there, it's one big, long, fat job interview. And so if you're not treating it like it's your real job, if you're thinking, oh, I'm just a student here and that guy's a jackwagon, that boss is a jerk, I'll do what I have to graduate, but I'm not, screw him, you can forget about ever getting a job there. And you could also count on him telling all his buddies at all the other hospitals in the area that you weren't a good student. So you have to treat your clinical rotations like a job. And your schools will tell you that if they're worth their weight in salt. And then, the other reason that people may be having a hard time finding a job is there just aren't any. You may just hit that spot, that sweet spot where all the jobs are filled at the moment, which happens, rare, but it happens. But you should not feel like if you don't get a full-time job right out of school, it's not worth it, because that's not really how it works. In our field of radiography, typically hospitals will hire PRNs, PRN, which is a Latin abbreviation for words that mean as needed, which is different than part-time. As needed means you're hired by the hospital and they will call you and say, I have a shift next Thursday that's open. Are you available? And as a PRN, you have the right to say, no, I'm not available. But if you are hired part-time, meaning you are employed as a part-time tech, in that case, you are guaranteed hours per pay period. And if you are part-time, they can call and say, I have a shift tomorrow and we need you to work it. And you have to take it if you haven't already met your hours. So you kind of got to know how that works. There's full-time, part-time, and PRN. And what we know on the administrative side is that if I hire you as a PRN, you don't affect my budget if you're not working. So I can have 10 of you. I can hire 10 PRNs, and it doesn't affect my budget unless I work you. Then I'm paying you. Part-time techs may be getting benefits and that kind of things accrued while they're working their part-time hours. That affects my budget. So even if a hospital if they need 35 X-ray techs and they've got 35 X-ray techs, they should probably have at least 5 PRNs as backup, because for one, not all those PRNs are going to be available at the same time. Some only want days, some only want nights, some have families, some don't. Some work other jobs while they're waiting to get a full-time job, so they're only available on the weekends, maybe, whatever. And those 35 techs that you have working are going to need time off. They're going to take vacations. They're going to get sick. They're going to go to their kids' games. They're going to, all kinds of reasons to need time off. And that's where your PRNs fill in for your techs. Even if it's a part-time tech and they take time off, the PRN fills in. So don't go into this field expecting to jump out and get a full-time job right away, which can happen. But hospitals like to have a pool of PRNs so that when they lose an X-ray tech to another competitor, or they cross-train them into a higher modality or whatever, or they start a family and don't want to work anymore or whatever, they pull from the PRNs, not from outside. If they're pulling from outside, that's kind of worrisome, because that means they don't believe in promoting from within. So know that if you go into radiography, or if you're a student right now, you may not get a full-time job when you get out, and that's normal. I had PRNs when I started. I got them at multiple places. I PRN'd at 2 or 3 different facilities at the same time, and that way they call and say, hey, we need you Monday, and the other place say, hey, we need you Tuesday. I'll take both. If they both call and say, hey, we need you Tuesday, then I weigh who pays more, who do I have a better chance of getting full-time from, who treats me better. There's lots of factors there. But I want to show you these websites, and I'll do some screen sharing here. I believe it's that button. Yeah. So JCERT is the accrediting body that keeps all the schools kind of on their toes, comes out and inspects them, make sure they're doing the bare minimum that has to be done to be an accredited program. You never want to go to a radiography school that's not accredited by JCERT. So I'll put this link in the description, but to find a program, jrcert.org/find a program, you type in, you click this accredited programs, and it'll take you to the next page where you can type in a search. You want radiography, you don't want, you can look at the other fields if you want. If you ultimately want to end up in radiation therapy, go check it out. But we're talking radiography right now. And in the group we have on Facebook, the Radiologic Technologist group, somebody in Kentucky chimed in and said, these poor students are graduating and can't find a job. And I said, hey, let's go check that out. So here we are at the JCERT site looking up Kentucky, and look at that. Kentucky has 15 schools pumping out students. That's crazy. That's way too many. And, like I said earlier, if you're a highly populated area, if you're Dallas, Texas, you can probably handle something like that. But it depends on how many hospitals. It depends on the rate of turnover. It depends on the population, because some states, the densely populated states have more techs per 1,000 people than, say, Idaho would, who's sparsely populated. But we're looking at, Kentucky here with 15 schools. So I plugged in Idaho, where I'm at, we have 5. And we're always in need of techs. So we've got 5 schools in Idaho versus 15 in Kentucky. Now, granted, there's more people in the state of Kentucky than there is in Idaho, but the other thing you look at is you pop over here to, where was I? The Bureau of Labor Statistics.gov. I'll scroll to the top here. U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, and I'll put this link in the description. But you want to go to this Radiologic Technologist 29-2034. That's our job code. I'm not sure why they have the word technicians in there. None of us are technicians. That just tells me that, the government doesn't fully understand what we do. But this data is good for X-ray techs and CT techs, because they kind of lump us all in together, but it does not include ultrasound techs, and it does not include MRI. Those are separate job codes. But if you come to this page, you can kind of see how many techs they think are employed based on Census Bureau information, 207,000. Now that's interesting, because we know that there's over 337,000 registered rad techs in the country based on ARRT and ASRT data. But they're showing 207, and so maybe there's quite a few that are retired or didn't get reported or something. So they're showing 207, but they're showing a mean hourly wage. You know, people are saying, how much do you make? Well, the mean hourly wage is right here, $30 an hour. The mean annual is around 63,000. And you can scroll down and compare it to other industries and other jobs. And then you can keep going and you can see, like down here, this red one is what I like to look at for saturation. And that person in Kentucky was absolutely correct. Kentucky, not only are they only paying $52,000 a year, but they've got over 2 techs per 1,000 and they're saturated. You can see by the little legend here. Oversaturated is red, not enough people is light pink. And so not enough. Here we go. And most of us are not enough. That's what all this pink is. There's 4 states over here that are a little bit above that. But I mean, Idaho, we're paying 60,680, and we've only got 980 throughout the whole state. But we got 1.134 per 1,000. So, you know, if you're going, hey, I want to go into radiology, what's the job market look like? Come here to this website and look at this and look at some of the data. Look at some of the states. You can pick your state annual mean wage for rad techs, and this is last year. This isn't very old data. So if you want to make the maximum, look at the dark blue states. Go to Minnesota, go to Washington, go to Oregon. Of course, Washington and Oregon are having huge problems right now with other issues. California will tax the snot out of you and you won't get to keep any of the money that you make, even though it pays up to $127,000. Can you see that? Up to $127,000. So when you see people say, how much can you make as an X-ray tech? That's not the full question that should be asked. The full question is, what does it make based on where I live? And then going into that is your tax rate and your cost of living and a lot of other factors. Because if you tell somebody that doesn't know our craft that you can make 127,000 years an X-ray tech, they're going to be misinformed. They're going to have expectations that are not realistic. So yeah, you can work West Coast, you can work East Coast, and then somehow Minnesota got quite a bit up there. Well, 50th percentile is only 68,000, and I say on average techs make between 50 and 60,000. That's about where we're at. But you know, you can always negotiate for more. I've got blog posts on how to negotiate once you get the job offer. This page has so much information. I mean, look, it shows you how many techs are in each state. California's got 17,000 techs in their state. It's crazy. Hawaii has 660, DC, Alaska, and Alaska's always looking for techs, just like Idaho is. It shows you their average pay. So I'm just showing you a couple places that you can go and look and see. And then here at projectioncentral.com, and I'll link to this in the description, you can plug in, this is a 10-year projection. You can plug in your state and your occupation, and it pulls the BLS data for you on the job outlook. So here in Idaho, the outlook for techs is a 20% increase per year for the next 10 years. And that's because, if you ask me, the retiring baby boomer generation is going to clobber us. That's our biggest generation, and they're all retiring now, and they're starting to get up there in age and need health care, and they're overwhelming the hospitals, and they're going to overwhelm the hospitals if they haven't already in your area, and there's not enough techs to keep up. Maybe Kentucky will equalize over that deal, but I can tell you in the states where we're not oversaturated, we better get humping on getting some more students in those schools. A 20% increase is 200 techs needed per year for the next 10 years. And we've got 5 schools, and they're not pumping out 40 each class. I'll tell you that. Mine, I think, is at 10 or 12, my local community college. So I compared that to Kentucky. Kentucky, with 15 schools, only has a 7% increase. So when you're looking around, or if you're a working tech and you're wondering about your next 10 years, you got to start looking at this data and say to yourself, if you're not, you know, completely tied down there because of family or kids or whatever, maybe you ought to consider it like I did. I moved out of the Phoenix market up here to Idaho because I could tell that it was going to be, you know, there's more crime down there, there's more pollution, there's more traffic, there's just a higher cost of living, 19% higher cost of living down there compared to up here. So I did another post on my blog that takes the average pay versus the cost of living and shows you which states let you keep the most money in your pocket. And I can probably even find that for you real quick. So if you go to my blog and you're interested in any particular topic, you can say anything into this search box, and it'll show you all the different articles I've written on those topics. Right here, RadTex, best states to work in, cost of living versus salary. So if you go there, I took data from a couple of websites, and here's the top 10. The place that lets you keep the most money in your pocket based on taxes and cost of living. The best place is Wyoming, next is Washington, and it goes down from there. And then it breaks it down in a graph. So there's an index that I use that I reference, and I give a link to it. And I use Wolfram Alpha to do some of the calculations. But I lay it all out for you so you can look at your state and see where you're at on the list. The worst, I believe, was, well, DC's there. I'm pretty sure Hawaii was towards the bottom because of how much everything costs over there. Anyway, there's the blog post. There's how you get to it. So now you know which states you can live in to help you keep the most of your money. And if you have any questions about the field of radiography or even any of the other modalities, I'm happy to answer them. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. Tell your friends about the channel, and we'll see you at the next video. I can't get to the end button. My toolbar is up and blocking the bottom. Exit full screen. Can't get to it. Can't get to it there. Here, let's go over here. Bye.